Welcome back into another episode of George in the Jungle, coming at you live from the Cincy Light Studios and presented by Remington Tavern. Remington Tavern can be found at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140, where they have their daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m., $5 bourbon whiskey Wednesdays, bottle cap bonanza Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. You can check them out on Instagram at Remingtav Cincy. That's REMITAV Cincy with a Y, or follow them on Facebook. While you're there, you can be sure to grab yourself an ice cold Cincy Light. They got it on tap. They got it in cans. Either way, if you're drinking it, you are supporting the athletes that play at the University of Cincinnati and doing your part, chipping in while drinking some good old Cincy Light. And with that, George, we got a jam-packed show, and we will start right at the top. First off, how are you?
I'm doing well. You can pick up one of these fine shirts up at Remington Tavern too. So
hey, there you go.
There's a shout out for that. How you doing?
I'm good, man. It's been a busy week, and it's only Tuesday.
Nice business going on.
It's only going to get busier as Coach Jared Calhoun from Utah State, a graduate assistant back in 2004 here at the University of Cincinnati under Coach Bob Huggins, is back. And he is your new head coach. We found out Wes Miller was fired last week, and they got that thing all taken care of since we last did our show with the $3.1 million buyout, I believe, if I'm remembering off the top of my head. So that is done, out of the way. He is now the head coach at UNC Charlotte, and good luck to him down there. I hope it goes better than his introductory video that they made, like the hype video. That was depressing. Looked like a guy who did not want to be there.
No, he looked like a guy that just lost his good gig. I mean, he really did.
But that said, here you have Coach Jared Calhoun coming off of an NCAA tournament victory. I did not know this before last night, but Brent did the homework, and or maybe it was Chad, one of them. But first coach we've ever hired that has an NCAA tournament win, by the way, as crazy as that is to believe. But
that is crazy.
You have a new head coach. So you hear that it's Jared Calhoun. What were your thoughts, George?
Well, I'm fired up. I mean, it doesn't look like the perfect fit. This is a guy we've kind of been talking about with a handful of others, but he was always seen as like at or very, very, very near the top of that list. And I know we brought up some other names, and Chris Beard was one of them I brought up, but just for a phone call, and I know. But this is a way better fit, in my opinion, all the way around. A guy who's been to UC, saw it when the basketball was tough, knows what it's made of, got a little more of that seasoning. Was it a small college as an assistant, then hooked on with Hugs, then got the Division II head coaching job. And it looks like it's just like each step he takes, nothing's too big for him. He rises to that challenge, whatever level he's at. And so that means the sky's the limit on this guy. And watching his team in the NCAA tournament, and you see the way they closed the game out against Villanova. I mean, that was textbook. That was just so great the way they closed that game out, because Villanova was hanging in there, was making a game of it down there in the last 2 minutes. And Utah State darn there did everything right to close that thing out. They did it. Then you're down 18 to a number one seed in the next game with under 15 minutes ago. And with 6 minutes ago, you've closed it to 4. A lot of teams are going to fold in that situation. Right. You're a 9, you're playing a 1. It's Arizona. They're expected to roll you. And by golly, that's happening, and those things can get out of hand. Maybe not so much at the NCAA tournament where it's, fighting for your life, but it was still impressive. I mean, they got back in that game against a team that may win it all. So when I first started looking at this dude, and his background, impressive and all that, and the more I saw him, the more I heard from him, the more I saw his team play, the more I liked. And so I don't think there was. If this was the only guy they targeted, I'm cool with that because I think they got a good one for a lot of reasons.
Well, it just sounds like this. You bring up the word perfect storm. It just sounds like, I mean, it's a guy that has the credentials. It's a guy that has the NCAA tournament experience. He's won at that level now. He has done everything at every level as far as winning goes. He is a guy that the fans wanted, clearly. I don't know that anyone as a fan is against this hire. You did yourself a favor. It was a layup. It was easy. As for your John Cunningham, I don't know how you go past one if one is still wanting to do it, like wanting to go further down the road. I don't know what there's, in my opinion, no reason to even necessarily at that point dip your toe in with anybody else because this is a grand slam by all counts.
It really is. I mean, it just feels like it just fell into place.
Yeah, some people would call it destiny,
Right.
as it is a situation where there is a guy and he fell into your lap more or less. And it's just, I don't know what boxes he doesn't check outside of, I brought up last night, giving the hire an A-, simply because he doesn't have the defense necessarily. We saw it improve, obviously, this season, as I believe he finished 55th in KenPom. But traditionally, he has had to bring a guy in to help with the defense, and we'll see. He did it. Now, the guy who did it at Utah State is going to Tarleton State, so he's no longer going to be on Calhoun's staff. We'll see who he's able to replace a defensive stalwart with, to try and figure this thing out at the Big 12 level, because it's going to be a little bit different than where Utah State was playing. But outside of that, the only other thing you could have done potentially is get a guy who has done it at the P4 level, which Calhoun has not. Those are my only two knocks. Outside of that, I still think it's an A hire, just in my opinion. That was the only two things that I can think of that you would want to see, that the only boxes he doesn't check, I guess.
Right. And there's a long list of boxes he does check.
Agreed.
Which certainly outweighs that fear. Nobody's going to be perfect at every slot. I mean, we could name 10 names here, and you're going to find. I think it's big that Calhoun wasn't so, insecure with himself that he didn't recognize what was, I guess, an obvious weakness here with the defensive side of the ball, and brought someone in to help make that happen. It wasn't like, I know everything and I'm going to figure this out on my own. He welcomed in new ideas. He welcomed in the guy to say, this is your expertise. It ain't mine. Let's see what you do. I was surprised. I mean, that team switches like everything. Like, it's on defense. Oh my God. It was, but it worked. It worked very well for them. I don't know what, it depends on probably his roster and who he has and all that in the Big 12, but that was different. Seeing all those switches out front, man, was crazy, because I didn't, there was very little of that with this UC defense.
I think it's also cool to bring a guy in who understands the rivalry that is Xavier. He's been here. He's lived it. He lived it probably when it was, I think, a bigger deal than what it's been of late, back when Huggins was here. And rivalries are kind of getting a little washed out because of everything, where the state of college sports is at this point. But he understands the rivalry, and he has experience beating Xavier as a head coach.
How about that?
So there is something to be said for that.
Yeah, he was immersed in it when he was here. And you're spending time on that bench during games with Hugs, and you're, then down at West Virginia, you're learning a lot there. He learned, he played for Raleigh Massimino, right? And they, with him, coached with Raleigh out at UNLV, I believe. So there's like good, solid coaching roots there for him to draw on. So I just, I understand the couple things you said he didn't check, but like I said, it's a lot of boxes he does check, and and understanding what Cincinnati is. You know, he's an Ohio guy, spent some time in Cincinnati, went to UC, got a degree from there. You know, that stuff's kind of in his DNA now, and boy, that makes you feel good when you have a guy coming back that kind of has some roots here.
And now, last night we had Lenny on, Lenny Stokes, who good friends with Jared Calhoun, was a player under him. He had great things to say. We see today good things coming from Huggins, good things coming from Mick. Coach Mizuno with the Boston Celtics. I mean, you saw all sorts of rave reviews. Now, since I did get rave reviews when they hired Coach Wes Miller, now that said, this feels different just in all of the ways.
Well, yes, and Wes was hardly on the radar in that deal till the last, couple of days, I think. And then once he's hired and I found out more and talked to some people, I felt pretty good about that one. I did. But I feel a hell of a lot better about this guy because I know a lot more about this guy, and he's got a much more, a broader background than Wes. I mean, Wes was kind of North Carolina, then he's an assistant, at Greensboro, then he's the head coach, and that's where he was for 10 years as a head coach.
A decade.
And then comes here. I mean, this guy's seen it, at several different levels of college basketball, different coaches, different situations. It's just a broader background to draw on, and he's been around a heck of a lot of good coaches. I mean, even when he was at UC, that bench had some good coaches on it that he was around who, went on to do okay.
Now, if the blowback from Utah State fans on Twitter is any indication, this is that they're so pissed. If that's any indication, we're doing well already. Now, that said,
I feel bad for them. I mean, Cincinnati's done it. we've lived it. The football program used to get poached all the time, and Hug stayed for a long time. I guess it didn't happen as much in basketball. Obviously, it did across town, but I feel bad for them. I get they're bitter. They're bitter. They want the guy to stay. They've had how many in a row go after like 2 or 3 years? I don't think anyone's been there longer than 3 years for a while.
But going back to coach for your alma mater in this type of a situation in the Big 12, which could be looked at by many as the best college basketball conference top to bottom, there's something to be said for all of that. So
I would understand it. I mean, if there was a guy at UC and, his alma mater came calling and it's, similar situation. I understand that being a tiebreaker. I mean, there's emotional ties to an area where you went to school.
Right. Now, 1:00 tomorrow, the presser will hear his first official. I know that some people got some words from him today getting off the plane, but we'll have his first official presser as the head coach of the University of Cincinnati. The presser is open to the general public, which I think is really cool. It offers a level of transparency that you don't get otherwise, and also just allows the fans to immediately show support for a guy who they have been beating the table for months at this point, literally months. Like it feels like his name first started coming up probably sometime around December, January. But as Lenny Stokes said last night, he says November. They were kicking this name around. So I think it's very cool that they're opening it up to the general public.
Yeah, no, it's great, and I hope they get a good crowd there, and he feels the support. And I mean, I'm sure if he's been talking to guys like Lenny, he knows how much this fan base is starved for a coach to come in here and shake it up a little bit and get things going in the right direction. And it just I'm not surprised his name would have been kicked around back in November, because we all knew going into this season what Wes was up against.
Right.
We knew this day could be coming where he was going to be shown the door and somebody else was coming in. So I would think UC should have had these names together in the offseason, really, of guys that might be on my radar. Because, I mean, if it goes the least bit sideways, which it did, this day was coming.
George,
so
if I'm an AD, I keep a list in my notes in my phone, or if I'm old enough school, a note in your back pocket that legit has the 5 guys that you want to keep an eye on at all times, and that list should be ever changing as the season goes.
Absolutely, and because you never know. I mean, you don't think your coach is going to do something. I mean, what if you're the AD at Michigan and then you got that? I mean, stuff blows up. You got to be ready.
Right.
You hope it doesn't, and you don't think it will, but none of that's going to help you when it hits the fan and you're not ready. And so I would have expected he was on a fairly short list even coming into the season.
Now, 1:00 tomorrow, it is open to the public. You're not going to be there, though, are you?
I just made a hair appointment. God, you had to bring this up. God bless. It's the first one I'll have missed since I was there when Tony Yates had his news conference and Hugs and all those guys, every one of them. But none of them won a national title. So maybe if I miss this one, it changes the mojo.
Maybe it does. Mark in the chat says Remington Tavern after the presser. So maybe you can go meet Mark
there after my hair's done.
Yeah, maybe you can meet Mark for a Cincy Light.
I think, honestly, back in the day, there was a UC coach used to stop at that place.
It may have been his house. Who knows? But I don't know. I'm excited. I think that the fan base needed a big change. You're bringing in for the first time I can remember. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they have not brought in an offensive-minded coach in a very, very long time, if ever.
No, you're right. I mean, I don't know if you could say Brandon was or not. But yeah, the defense has been the identity. But I'll tell you what, I watched the ABA documentary, and it was just funny what the ABA guys were saying about the NBA and the old style of play. Basketball evolves, and it keeps evolving. And
right.
And Mick said it the other night after his loss. We didn't score, and if you can't score, you're not going to win. I mean, there are some games you have to score, and I wish he would have taken care of that like at the beginning of the Cincinnati career. But he was up against it. He was up against it big time. But how many times have we seen that where if a team and his team couldn't score that night, and defensively it was almost impossible to hold UConn down. So the game evolves, and it's gotten much faster. It's gotten a little more run and gun from 3 and all that stuff. So maybe that's what they need.
Well,
Still got to have a tough defense and rebounding, though. That's absolutely a prereq.
Well, you go back to Utah State's first game in the tournament, and they hit 13% from 3. Terrible.
Right.
But they got to the line 36 times. They are aggressive in getting to the hoop, and they at least make free throws. And so
do you think you can possibly change that here? If there's one thing, I mean, you can change all kinds of stuff. Can you ever change UC's free throw percentage?
God, I hope so. God, I hope so.
I mean, no one's been able to do it in forever. I think probably since a Gail Catlett team. I don't know.
If you're getting to the line 30 plus times, George, you've got to be hitting free throws. Otherwise, we got to get rid of this whole concept that they're just throws. We need the free throw. We need to make free throws a thing again, as opposed to just being throws. Because good God,
going back to that ABA documentary, and Rick Barry saying, he's like, how could anyone who plays basketball be under 80% in free throw shooting? He's like, I'm only asking you to make 4 out of 5. And he's right. You should be able to make 4 out of 5. But how many guys shoot under 80%?
It's crazy.
Probably 80% or more of basketball players.
In any case, that wasn't the only thing going on campus today, as we'll switch gears here. And it was pro day today.
Yeah.
So I listened to Satterfield's presser afterwards, where he got to talk a little bit about some of the guys. And it seems that Cyrus Allen had himself a day today. Now, of course, you didn't have Brendan Sorsby throwing to him. Instead, you had J.C. French throwing to him. And he mentioned French had a great day, great practice on Friday for spring ball, as he hit 15 of 15 passes in his drills on Friday. So you had French out there throwing to guys who he had never thrown to. Chad said tonight on the nightcap that he had maybe one bad ball. That's encouraging. And also great to hear that Cyrus Allen had a great day, because for whatever reason he was left out on the combine for reasons I don't understand still.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. I really don't. But he made up for it today. He made up for it with what he did the week of the Senior Bowl. So, they know about him, and I think someone's going to take him. He does some things that, you can't coach. So I think,
like running 4.4s several times today, by the way.
Yes. So I think he's going to get a shot. I don't understand the combine thing, but he's made the most of his opportunities. And it's just very cool that, I didn't even think about it not being on campus and now being back on campus for pro day. Yeah. And I thought it was interesting. Satterfield brought that up, and he was like happy about that. He thought it was a big deal to have it there. And it certainly helps the players because it's their home. It's where they're really comfortable. But having those scouts come in and stuff and see the new facility and all, it just, none of that hurts, and it can only help.
Yeah, I agree. Getting to showcase the facility and getting to use it. He talked about the players being more comfortable with the familiarity of home and getting to do their pre-workout stuff, their post-workout stuff, and all of that. I'm sure, and any rehab or anything that they needed to work on, looking at you, Dante, they got to do what they got to do to get ready, NFL ready, and all the travel just to go to a pro day down in Texas just kind of seems silly. I don't know that you necessarily need to make it easier for the scouts to get to you. I think what you need to do is have them come to you if they want to see your guys. So
these pro days are cool, though. I always liked going to those. Those were it was fun. And these guys are flat getting after it, but there's every NFL team generally has somebody there or close to it. I thought it was interesting that he says the first time Zach Taylor had been in that facility.
Crazy.
I don't know what's he thinking. I mean, he's got his own indoor facility, but I mean, now they do have fair facilities inside the stadium that they've renovated and done stuff to, but he's got to be thinking, holy, the college team has this, and we're in the NFL, and we're still blowing up a bubble. It's crazy. But I always love those pro days, and the kids get up for it, and it sounds like the Bearcats are going to have a few guys getting their shot in the league again.
Coach mentioned a couple guys by name. Of course, Cyrus Allen, Jake Goulday, hard to ignore that guy. Dante being another one. Interesting, Joe Royer wasn't really brought up at all by anybody. But he did bring up Gavin Gerhardt. He brought up Patrick Gerd. I think that might be it. But
yeah, I guess Joe still. I don't know where I read it. Maybe it was in Keegan's story. Somebody said he was dealing maybe with a hamstring or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, as Satterfield said, there's enough tape on him.
Yeah, he mentioned Caldwell as well, but did mention all these guys, high character guys. They do what they do, and said if you got any questions of things they weren't able to do today, go look at the tape. It tells you the story of who they are and what they can do. So
yeah, and I think Gerhardt's going to get a shot somewhere. I really believe that.
I think so too.
I think I sit down with this guy, and a lot of teams have talked to him. I think, and Gerd, it was. Satterfield's right, like that, like kind of H-back, and a special teams guy. He could do that. I mean, because apparently, he opened some eyes today with a couple of those tests he went through. So hopefully he ends up in a camp and gets to be one of those, grunts that carves out a nice career.
Yep, it'll be fun to see where all these guys end up landing and get to rep the CPAW somewhere in the NFL. But we'll switch gears here as baseball. They had a pretty good weekend for your Cincinnati Bearcats. They win 2 of 3 against Utah. Probably the biggest thing is Quentin Coates continues to mash 3 in a game, tying the school record. And in the same game, by the way, Jack Natilli also has 3 home runs, tying the school record. Pretty crazy that happens in the same game as they win that one on Saturday 20-10 before dropping the potential sweep game on Sunday 13-11 there.
Yeah, that was disappointing. Should have won that game. Saturday.
And then I was just going to say, to cap it off, you lose today against Xavier after getting ranked 25th in the country. Ugh.
Well, got to make up for it this weekend. But, today hurts. There's no doubt about it. You never want to drop that game. But Saturday.
About Friday. Was it Friday or Saturday? I was just bringing up whatever game you were going to talk about before.
Saturday. Okay. Oh, the game they hit the home runs in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Saturday, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so I get home and I try to fire up the game on ESPN Plus, and like it's showing a live game, but nothing's going on. I'm like, who knows what the problem is? I'll come back later. I come back later, same thing. So then there may have been beers involved, but I did something else, and then I tried to fire up the game Sunday, and it's the same thing. I had to sign out and sign back in, and then it worked. So I missed that damn game with the home runs in it. I probably could have seen, I don't know, the last 4 or 5 innings anyway. So that's my only bitch about the baseball team, but it's good to see. In today's game. But, this Coates kid, this run is unbelievable. Every game I go to, I think that dude hits one. And I know he showed promise last year and he kind of took over, the everyday position halfway or so through the season. But, God, he's taking a jump, man. His power is flat out legit. This is exciting. I hope he can continue to do it and see how far this goes because, that would end up being a draw, I think, like in late April and May if that dude's just mashing home runs like he is at this pace.
Well, it's crazy that he's doing it during cold weather. It's crazy that he's doing it for a team that prides itself on small ball.
Right.
Bishop Ball is not mashing home runs, and here we are mashing home runs. So
I'll take it.
It's a little Bishop Ball's a little weird. Maybe it's evolving this year. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what, this kid's bat is evolving. This guy is turning some heads. And like I said, if he continues to pound the ball, I think it'll be a thing. I think people will show up at games just to see this dude.
Well, they currently stand at 19-8. Like I said, they got ranked. We'll see if that changes next week with losing to Xavier. But you play Kansas this weekend, hosting them here at UC Baseball Stadium, where they are 10-2 now. So we'll see what they're able to do against Kansas. It looks like Friday is military appreciation, and Sunday kids run the bases again. So there you go.
All right.
But we'll switch gears here again as we're talking about baseball. We'll get back to baseball here in a moment.
I thought you'd roll right into it.
I was, but there's just not much to talk about here with the Cincinnati Bengals.
You're excited about this Bengals news.
Well, no, I'm excited more about the Reds. So I want to leave more room for the Reds. Right. I want to get through the Bengals stuff and then leave more room for the Reds.
About the Bengals news too, though.
I am excited about it. Joe Flacco is back in stripes. I didn't know if this was going to happen as they brought Josh Johnson in last week, but the money that I'm seeing is the crazy part here.
Yes.
Joe Flacco, I don't know when the last time was that the Bengals allotted $6 million for their backup. That alone is a little wild. Up to $9 million with incentives. It seems they are trying to do the right thing, though, this season and making sure they have a viable backup behind Joe Burrow if you have another situation where you have to break glass for emergency and throw this guy in.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, they've had to do that, several times in Joe's career. So it's smart to have a backup of this caliber. And quite honestly, I can't blame them for thinking they did with Jake Browning the way he played the last time Burrow was out.
Sure.
And then this time it was just night and day. But at least they made, to me, an aggressive move. $6 million for a backup for the Bengals is just, I mean, holy God. I guarantee you Mike Brown never thought he would ever pay $6 million a year for a backup quarterback. When he was operating back in the 90s, he would have told you that will never happen in Cincinnati, and here it is. I'm surprised. I'm glad it happened. I feel bad for Josh Johnson because his transaction list is going to grow. Whether I don't know that they'll keep. Well, he'll bounce around and be somewhere. He could be back here. But there's going to be more transactions for that guy, I'm afraid. But, Flacco showed he can still sling it. And I'm surprised he's coming back for another season, but he's just got the bug, man. And he's really – if he retired today, he would be perfectly happy with his career and everything else. But I think he thinks there's still something there, and if he's going to back up somewhere, he may as well back up a place he apparently likes very much.
Yep.
He apparently likes the system he operates in when he's on the field. And he apparently thinks his team can have success and maybe get him a ring.
The wild thing here to me is that he is 6 months younger than I am. He's going to be 42 in January. And that's crazy to be paying a backup $6 million with incentives to $9 million at 41 years old. But I think that it's really hard to say you want to hang him up if you have the allure of throwing to what he has called himself the best receiving core that he's ever thrown to.
Right.
And you saw last season, he still has something left in there. I think that he probably could have gone to a handful of teams. I'm sure there were other offers out there, but this one seems to be either, I doubt it's the most money he could have made. I'd be a little surprised there. Maybe it is, but I think that the situation provides itself a little bit more to fall back on. And I wonder how much he enjoyed working with Joe Burrow. How much was he able to bestow as far as knowledge goes to Joe Burrow, and how much more can he do this season with Joe starting right away, Burrow that is, starting right away, and Flacco there guiding him through the offseason, guiding him through like what to do to help keep your body there through age 41 in the NFL, because right now Joe's struggling to get to 30.
Right. That's valuable information for young Joe. And this just screams that, yes, Flacco really liked it here, liked the situation here. He probably went through the pros and cons, and maybe you get a start for a team that is not a very good team and he's got no one to throw to. Or I can go over here and make, decent money. $6 million a year is decent. But I think the Bengals have to really like him too to put this kind of an offer there. And that's not why you have a backup quarterback. You also want a guy that functions well. But it doesn't hurt that apparently he rubbed everybody the right way in that locker room and in the offices. I mean, the Bengals never would have done this. I'm still stunned they did, but I just think both sides felt like it was a good situation for them, and I'm glad they did it. I wanted to see him back. I feel a lot better with him there than, unknown entities.
Or even Josh Johnson.
Right.
So I love it. I love it for the Bengals. I love it for Joe Flacco. I love it for Joe Burrow. I love it for the receivers. I love it for our odds of getting to the playoffs. I think that all of this points us in the right direction. You got to figure that window, I don't know that it's closing yet, but this helps it. If Joe Burrow goes down again, I think it's nothing but a good thing to have Joe Flacco now waiting in the wings with an entire offseason behind him. You don't have to make a move or worry about them having to make a move to get another quarterback, barring Joe Flacco going down. So I think that this is all a good thing.
Yep, I would 100% agree. And I don't know when they'll ever draft another quarterback, but they certainly don't need to worry about that right now. Enough other things to fill on that defensive side of the ball.
I'd be a little surprised if they didn't end up with an undrafted free agent of some sort, or maybe you take a guy 6th or 7th round if you really love a guy.
Well, they'll bring in a guy for camp for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll switch gears here and get to the Reds because opening day, again, right around the corner. It's almost upon us, George. Almost here.
What are the Reds going to do with all these starting pitchers? Oh, wait. How did this happen?
We'll get to that. But first, the roster is finalized at this point, seemingly barring injury, because,
they happen.
And this medical staff's terrible. But we saw it cut down. Any surprises in what finally shaked out as your
the
final
only
roster?
Thing, and maybe this shouldn't surprise me. You'll be mad about this, but just how early he settled and said Will Benson's on the team. That surprised me a little bit. But I can't say I'm surprised that they kept Nate Lowe. I like the signing of him. I think, given what's around and what they have, he was the guy they needed, as a pinch hitter. And, sometimes DH, and whether he sees the field or not, I don't know. But no, nothing really shocked me about this. I felt like a couple of weeks ago, this is probably where we were going to end up, other than the 6 starting pitchers. But then no sooner do they say that and Hunter's out. So then, things just start. And now Lodolo. And who knows what's going on with Singer?
Well, the good news about Hunter is they've looked at his elbow. The procedure that he had done looks like it's trending in the direction that he wanted to get back in July. So it sounds like July is the timetable that we'll be looking at for him. As far as Lodolo and this blister stuff goes, I know people made jokes in the offseason, but I don't understand how this continues to be a thing. It's crazy to me that he either hasn't changed mechanics or hasn't just dropped the pitch at this point, if it's causing you to blister up every single year.
Yeah, this is the 3rd time, right? 3rd year.
At least.
Yeah. I don't know. And I mean, we joked about it a couple weeks ago. But this is why, because it keeps happening. I don't know how that keeps happening. I don't understand it myself. I don't get it. I mean, like, how is there not a callus there now or something? I mean, Christ, I don't know. I'd figure something out if that kept happening. And then I don't know what the Singer's got one now too. So I don't know what the hell is going on with these guys and when they'll be ready.
Well, Singer's had a rough spring, a little bit of a rough spring. So maybe he's just blaming it on a blister. I don't know. Got to find something.
Well, let's hope Abbott doesn't have one, because he's had a rough spring too.
He has had a rough spring, but we'll see him right off the mound first game. So we'll see on that.
Yeah, the Red Sox have a good young pitcher on the mound, so it's and the Red Sox were a little better than the Reds last year, but both teams playoff teams, and I'm excited to see it get going and everything. But I gotta say, these pitching injuries have kind of dampened my enthusiasm for what I thought this season could be. But who knows? Maybe they'll be a much better hitting team than I thought they were going to be. I would love to see that. But boy, it's just this starting pitching staff was supposed to be a strength, and now here we're dealing with 3 guys, with some type of injuries, and then another one who has been getting shelled.
Well, you bring up Will Benson. I want to go back to that, and I think that move made the most sense because when you look at AAA, they don't have a ton down there right now as far as outfielders go to bring up if there was injury. Now, that said, you were able to send Blade down to AAA. He still had options. I don't know that Benson had any options left without
I don't know either.
Without having to pass through waivers. So you're able to keep him here at this level, and he's been hitting in the spring. So those are both encouraging. Now he's been striking out a lot, but that's where we're at in baseball at this point.
That's for sure.
But he has been hitting the ball. They've been using him more than they did for 30 days last season. But he also gives you the flexibility of playing all 3 positions in the outfield.
I agree.
And I don't know that Blade gives you that.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying when it came down to absolute, but I will say they've seen a lot of Will Benson. I love the guy. I love his passion and everything else. And, and probably that flexibility is one of the deciding factors. But I hope he has a good year. I really do. But I've been hoping that for a long time. My God, when he's on, though, he's a holy terror.
Well, if either Friedel or Myers go down, I don't know that you have another viable center fielder without bringing somebody up. And if you brought up Blade, you still don't have a center fielder.
Right.
So unless you're planning on trying to throw Marte back in center field as you did for a game last season, and that looked not great. His fielding is not something he is known for out in the outfield there, as he's still acclimating himself to right field from the move from third base. So
I think he'll get better, but maybe I'm wrong. I think he'll get better.
I don't know if Reese Hines can give you anything from center field. I doubt it.
I doubt it too.
So I think this was the move you had to go with. And there'll inevitably be injuries. There always are.
Oh, God, yeah.
But as soon as you traded the kid who broke his arm, Tyler Callahan, as soon as you traded him away to Pittsburgh, you really had nothing left for throwing a guy out in the outfield outside of Blade. And to me, this made the most. This is not surprising at all that Benson was the first name that they announced when you're looking at what happens if you get injured and you're kind of cash strapped.
Yeah, I suppose. It's just, I don't know, man. That guy's gotten a lot of chances. I hope he makes the most of this one.
I don't know that they gave him enough of a chance last season because as soon as they brought him back in, he started hitting again.
Well, he goes through those stretches where you shouldn't sit him, but sometimes he goes through stretches where you shouldn't play him.
Well, that's
but that's baseball. What do you think of the move with tinkering with the batting order a little bit there with Sal Stewart hitting 4th?
I love it.
Yeah, I do too.
Especially for the reasons that were given when you're putting a guy in there who doesn't strike out as much, when you're putting a guy in there who can follow Suarez, and he's following Suarez, right?
Suarez he's in front of him.
In front of him. He's faster though.
He would have been behind. Yeah. And that's Suarez needs to drive in runs, and this does give you another guy who can get on base.
Yeah.
Pray to God McLean's back. His spring was outrageous, but obviously he won't keep that up. But my God, if he can get back to his 2-year-ago form, that's a bonus for him too. And then that top of the order is really looking good.
Well, yeah, you have at that point you can do a lot of different things with this lineup. I would imagine if McLean is hitting the way he was, you have him in the one or the two. You have Friedel in that other spot.
Yeah, Friedel will lead off.
And then you have Ellie De La Cruz, Sal Stewart, Suarez, and then your 6 would be what, Benson?
Probably. Or Steer.
Or Steer, or our catcher. I don't know. I can't remember names. Yeah, thank you. I was stuck on Tyler Callahan again. I'm not all the way in baseball mode yet. So
No, it takes a few days once they start playing. I think I can probably remember all of them, but it's after so many years of watching, it's like, holy God, when I gotta separate, like the decades now, sometimes it's like, oh God, this stuff runs together.
But you'll have Marte somewhere in there as well. So you got a lot of different things you can do with this lineup. Depending on who's hitting, who's not, you can move some guys around. I'm excited to see what happens. I hope there's a little bit more accountability this season than especially base running accountability. I haven't seen the gaffes really through this spring training that we saw throughout the season last year. So hopefully we leave those in 2025 because I'm not ready to see guys just as if they're running the bases for the first time again.
I know. Actually, that's been a problem kind of
for years
for them.
Yeah.
It's been really weird. Hopefully they get back to being a little more better decision making on the base pass for sure.
Yeah. And we'll see what happens with the bullpen. That's another place that there's just a lot of question marks there. I don't know.
Who knows? Like relief pitching is just so weird. Like you can't. The minute you think you can bank on a guy, you can't. And no one's ever going to be perfect every time out. But golly, I mean, look at not that he was good last year, but man, like Ashcraft. I mean, my God, his spring, he was just getting beat like a drum.
Yeah, so was Maxwell. Alexis Diaz has been released from the Dodgers. So,
yeah. Well, the Red Sox roll in, and they got a good one, and they got good old Aroldis Chapman in their pen now.
Yeah.
And Sonny Gray.
Two guys that I loved watching pitch for the Reds.
Yeah, they were good for the Reds, both of them. Too bad they sold Chapman at the lowest his value ever was in his entire career. That's the lowest his value was, and that's when he was traded.
Gross. There was also some big news that came out today for the Cincinnati Reds as Joey Votto bought them he bought the stadium a watch.
That thing is so cool. I don't know what struck him. That is like so Joey Votto.
He's such a weird dude.
What former player? That is so cool. Yeah, it's his gift to the Reds in the city. And that thing, when I saw that picture of that, because I you see the headline and it's like, what the heck? He bought him a clock. What? And then I saw that thing and it's like, that is cool.
Yeah.
That thing is so cool. And I guess it plays music, like take me out to the ball game and stuff like that.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, do you have a picture somewhere? We don't have one, do we?
I can pull it up. I was just looking up some of the specs on it. It's 16 feet, 8 inches tall, 4 36-inch dials. Going to be right there in Crosley Terrace outside the main entrance, kind of on the corner. But yeah, I can.
Yeah, it looked like it was out close, not by the street, but it was out that way. Yeah. But yeah, that thing's really cool. A little bigger than my grandfather clock, that's for sure. But yeah, that was a class move by Votto to do that, and that is just something he would do. Like the last thing you would expect a player to do is what he does, except when he's at the plate. You know he's going to get on.
There it is.
There it is.
There you go.
That thing is cool. So that's just outside the gift shop. It looks like sort of. Yeah, that's that thing is cool. I wonder what that cost. Nobody said
it was built by the Verdin Company here in Cincinnati. But yeah, just a fun thing that you can take pictures with. Hourly chimes with a wide range of music, including "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." There's a bronze plaque down at the bottom with Joey's signature on it, saying "Thank you, Cincinnati."
Cool.
Yeah. So just,
he must think they're not going to put a statue of him out there, but I think they will.
Yeah. Just a super cool thing. Well done, Joey Votto.
Yeah, that's awesome. That thing looks so good.
Did they ever get Tom or not Tom? I'm
Marty,
sorry.
they fixed
Marty's
back. Yeah, Marty's back on the microphone. That was so random. And then didn't it just turn out to be a kid that was like playing with it or something?
I'm sure it was.
I don't think it was anything nefarious. At first, people were like, "Oh my God, there's Marty haters out there," and it would do this, vandalize his statue. But I think it was just all an accident and a big mistake. But yeah, Marty's back in one piece.
All right. And we'll switch gears here one last time as we talk about the team that has been struggling about as much as anybody. But FC Cincinnati gets a big win, a much needed win, you could say, I guess, as they beat CF Montreal 4-3 on Sunday. This coming after they got blown out by the Tigres 5-1. In that weird tournament that they're still playing in.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, that was so weird. That was disturbing, really. I'm sure it was disturbing for them to lose in that fashion. I mean, they had a 3, because they beat them 3-1, so they had a 2-goal advantage going into that thing. And, goal differential determines who moves on if you or goals scored, I guess, determines. And so they had a big lead going into that and couldn't hold up and didn't advance.
Well, if you couple the Tigres game with the New England game, you lost 11-2 in 2 games,
that's
which
hard to do.
That's stupid.
And even though they won this weekend, they still gave up 3 goals.
Right.
Hell of a comeback, though. I mean, at least because it's still early enough, but still they needed that. They really needed that comeback and feel good about something. Got to figure out why they're allowing so many goals now. But yeah, it's plenty early enough, and that was a much needed win. Now they get a little break and play a week from Saturday, I think, is the next game.
Well, I think the most impressive thing in that win on Sunday is you did it in the 94th minute. You were 4 minutes past regulation. You did it with down a man. You've been down a man who took a red card in Miles Robinson in the 60th minute. So you were playing the last 30 minutes of regulation, down a man, and then you still won the game, scoring 2 goals.
Yeah.
2 goals down a man, only giving up 1 goal in that time. So, like I said, just a big win for a team that was struggling real bad. But next game for FC Cincinnati appears to be in April against the
Saturday.
The New York Red Bulls on April 4th.
Yeah.
The Red Bulls being the favorites in this one at -105, Cincinnati at +225, and the draw at +245. So
we can make some money for them if they win that.
If they win. That said, I know there is plenty to get to in high school sports as you have state championships wrapping up and some winners locally.
How about Princeton? Holy smokes. So I saw their win over Oak Hills on the YouTube feed or whatever it was. And my God, they their defense is stifling. They rolled through. So what they won by 31 in the state championship game.
Crazy.
Won by 31 points. And in the state semifinal, they won by like 26 or something. Hell, it may have been more than that. It may have been 29. That's just dominance. I mean, this team, and Lakota West lost in that regional final because you kind of thought it might come down, to a Princeton Lakota West matchup up there in the state Final Four, but West got beat and Princeton brought it on home. What a season!
Would love to see, by the way, George. Would love to see Cam Mercer one of the first guys that Calhoun is able to bring in. That would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be. He's got time to work on him, right?
He does have that.
Yeah, he's got some time to work on him. So, yeah, Wyoming also a state champion from Southwestern Ohio, winning in Division IV, and they won big, 73-48 in their championship game over Glenville, who has sent some good athletes to Cincinnati. Summit lost in the semifinals in Division V, and then in Kentucky. So somehow this year, CovCath ends up having to play Louisville St. X in the Sweet 16.
Des Ritter School.
Possibly two of the best. Now, there's a couple other teams that were in the mix too. In fact, Madison Central had beaten CovCath in the regular season. But they played in the Sweet 16 round, and X won, and then went on the roll to the state title and won that over the weekend. But CovCath had a hell of a year, but obviously Louisville St. X playing some serious ball down the stretch.
Jake got screwed.
Yeah, do they just put them in a hopper and draw?
Yep.
God, but then why do they do this RPI?
1 through 16 in a hopper. They blind draw it. The two best teams in the state played the first game of the tournament.
And I read an out-of-town article, and it said something basically like, this is the de facto state championship game.
The first game of the tournament.
Right.
Like not somewhere in like the mix of the first round. It was the opening game of the whole damn Sweet 16. The two best teams in the state.
They got to start thinking about letting that RPI work into the seedings.
But it's part of the allure of the Sweet 16, the way that they do it. Like that's part of the history of it, is that blind draw.
Yeah.
16 regions. They just throw 1 through 16 in a hat, and however they come out is, I mean, I've seen years where like literally it was like 1 through 8 in the top half, and then 9 through 16 in the bottom half.
That's
in the top, and one half just murders itself to the finals. And the other half is like the 11th best team just walks its way casually in.
They clearly need to committee like the NCAA has and seed these
something.
Teams.
Clearly, whoever is putting this whole tournament together for Kentucky has something to do with all the distilleries where they're making all of the bourbon down in Kentucky. Probably a member at a snake biting church in a holler somewhere. I'm just saying. Wow. There's some weird shit going on in Kentucky, so none of this surprises me.
Yeah, there's definitely some.
Did you grow up in Coleraine?
I did. We wear shoes there.
That's debatable. I've been there. That's debatable.
You have to. There's glass on the ground. You have to wear shoes. In any case, anything else you got as far as high school stuff though? Were you able to make it through everything? I don't know.
Yeah, we're through everything.
All right.
Yeah. I'll tell you, boy, Wyoming was impressive in Division IV. I'll say that. But Princeton, man, what a run! That surprised me. First basketball state title in school history. They got there in '72, and way back before Lincoln Heights consolidated into Princeton, man. In Class A in Ohio, they were a powerhouse.
It just feels like ever since they built that new high school that they've been excelling in all of the sports.
Yeah, and they have great facilities and a great AD up there, Joe Roberts, who was a one-time Cincinnati basketball manager.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
All right. And you got anything else this week, George?
No. Just getting ready for opening day.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap things up for us here on George in the Jungle. Thanks to all of you who joined us here live. Thanks to all of you who listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks to Cincy Light for sponsoring the studios and providing the beverages that you can drink at Remington Tavern. But Remington Tavern can be found at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140, where they have their daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m., $5 Bourbon Whiskey Wednesdays, Bottle Cap Bonanza Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. You can check them out on Instagram at Remington Cincy or follow them on Facebook. But for George Vogel, I'm Aaron Smith. We'll be back here next Tuesday to discuss all of your Cincinnati sports.
Thank you, Aaron.